SailGP is back. A new year, 2 new teams and a familiar setting. Championships powered by nature.
Hey!
Whoa!
Try this.
And there is the inaugural win. Race 1, job done for the greatest Olympic sailor in history.
Nice one, guys.
Our guys did a fantastic job sailing the boat. A great opening.
Slingsby with a little bit to do here.
Go boys, go hard.
That's a fabulous second place for the Spaniards. We are in Sydney and Ben Ainsley is flying. Slingsby in 5th. Well, he's got a little bit to do on day 2.
Looks more like we're the rookies and he's the one who's done a season, but we've got to just work on it and come back stronger tomorrow.
It's a dream start for one of the all-time greats.
We're delighted with 3 wins and try and build on that going into tomorrow.
What an opening we had yesterday. The SailGP Championship season opened in some style with high tech, high drama and, of course, high speed in what is arguably one of the world's most beautiful natural sailing amphitheatres, Sydney Harbour. Now, let's take a look at the leaderboard as it stands after that first day of fleet racing. 30 perfect points for Great Britain at the top of the standings, winning all 3 races. Then the 2 superpowers of SailGP, Japan and Australia, sharing 23 points. The United States, Lisa's called them the silent assassins, still very much in touch with the match racing final in 4th position. But Spain, down there in 5th, penalised 9 points for their collision with France. Let's take a look at the schedule now for today's racing in Sydney. We've got 2 fleet races to open up. Plenty of points on offer for all of those teams to try and book their places in the event final. And then just before 20 to 6, we will have the 2 top teams on points going toe-to-toe in the event final. Now, joining me here on Shark Island, I have one of Australia's finest foiling talents, Lisa Darmanin. Lisa, Ben Ainsley asserted himself as the alpha male in the F50 fleet yesterday. In your opinion, what was it that made him so dominant?
I think Ben did 3 things well. He was the fastest boat on the racetrack. He made minimal mistakes. And with the Gold Star team in front of him, he gave him the flexibility to stand up and make good decisions at what was a very strategic day.
Probably the most impressive part of the racing yesterday. He had 2 races, 1 and 2, where he led from the front. But then suddenly he came through in race 3 from the very back and fought his way through.
Yeah, it was very impressive. I think that he was just able to keep his cool and trust his team in front of him to keep the boat going fast. It was so puffy and shifty, so it was about going into the most pressure so you could keep your speed and sailing the least amount of distance. So did a very good job.
Okay, one of the other big moments that we've got to look at from yesterday, because it dictated so much of the racing, was the coming together of the Spanish and French boats. How did you see this one as it unfolded?
Yeah, it was quite difficult because it was a boundary sort of decision by Phil. It was very reactive. He threw the boat around because he thought that he was close to the boundary. But there's 2 main rules of sailing, and that's avoid a collision at all costs. And as you can see, there was a little bit of a bang there, and port gives way to starboard. So Phil definitely got it wrong. I think what he needed to do, he needed to slow the boat down and then go behind the French. So you never want to slow the boat down, but that's what he had to do if he wanted to make that turn.
Well, you made the call yesterday that he was quite mischievous in the boat, and it's cost the French dearly, hasn't it?
Yeah, well, Phil's a match racer by trade, and he's always been pushing the limits in these boat-on-boat situations, and unfortunately sometimes it bites. And for the French, they were the one that copped the worst penalty.
Okay, you spoke to Billy Besson last night, didn't you? What state's the French boat in?
Well, at the time, he didn't think that they would make it on race day 2, but luckily they've had the tech guys doing an all-nighter at Cockatoo Island, making sure that, as you can see on the screen, there was some dry carbon and a fresh coat of paint so that they could make the start today.
And it wasn't just the French and Spanish boats that were damaged, was it?
Yeah, the Danish and the Japanese had a little collision. The Danish ran up the back of the Japanese and scratched their foil to the steel. So I think Nathan was limping around with a dodgy rudder yesterday and still had great results. So should be an exciting day today. day.
Okay, it's pretty impressive that while that looks cosmetic on the Danish boat, Nathan Outridge was still able to pull in 23 points with a damaged rudder. Now, alongside Lisa and I out on Shark Island, there's also a third member of our team. It's Matt Cornwell. He's in the analysis hub and he has the luxury of poring over all of the data that comes off the F50s. And he's chosen to have a look, first of all today, at what made Ben Ainslie so dominant in the first 3 fleet races.
Welcome back to the Analysis Hub. Now, yesterday, the British managed to win all 3 races. So today, I want to talk about performance. Now, however well they were sailing tactically, they must have been fast to win 3 races in gusty conditions. And we've got an example here from race 3. We'll play it here. The British boat are behind the Spanish boat. This is on a downwind leg. Both boats jibe here. Now, I want you to focus on the angle of these 2 boats. The British boat were able to sail lower the whole time. That should make them slower, but they're pretty much the same speed, and they just gain on the Spanish the whole time. They'll get closer and closer and closer, and they make a lovely gain on this leg. But it wasn't just this leg. This was happening all day long. They always had speed to burn on the downwind legs. We're going to go over to their boat here and try and unlock boat speed a little bit. Now, the force of the wind on this wing is trying to tip this boat over the whole time. So the more you can counteract the force of the wind, the more you can power that wing up and the faster you'll go. And the crew do this by making sure this leeward hull is as high as possible. You hear the commentators talking about ride height. That's what that is. And then the windward hull, you want that to be as low as possible. And that means you're leaning the wing towards the wind, counteracting that force. You can power it up and you go fast. The problem is that the wind is always changing. There's puffs and lulls. So the crew have to react to those changes in the pressure on the wing, but they also need to react to each other's adjustments, and that is coordination. The more coordinated the crew is, the faster the boat's going to go. And sailing these boats takes more coordination than doing the Macarena, but if you get it right, you're going to be the king of the dance floor. You might have to look that one up, kids. I think Ed knows what I mean, though.
I'm not going to fall for it, Matt. He's trying to goad me into doing the Macarena on live TV. No way. It's not happening.
Maybe you can suggest it to Ben Ainslie as his new victory dance.
That will go down well. Now, in contrast to Ben Ainslie and the British team, who were all smiles after yesterday's racing, we're now going to go and talk to Tom Slingsby, who is looking to vent his frustration today and climb his way up the leaderboard.
Tom Slingsby, never write him off.
It's time to get up and party. Australia is the 2019 SailGP champion.
What does it mean to you to kick off this season and try to defend your crown on home waters?
It's amazing. Being on Sydney Harbour with an all-Australian boat, hopefully the sun's shining, the wind's blowing, and a huge crowd out there cheering us on, it doesn't really get any better than that. What really motivates you to, prove that you're the best? It can be tough to get motivated sometimes. So for me, having Ben Ainslie come to the class, he's the greatest Olympic sailor of all time, and some call him the greatest sailor of all time. And there's a saying in boxing, to be the best, you've got to beat the best. And being known as one of the best sailors has been, I've got to go out there and compete with Ben Ainslie and on a level playing field, same boats, fast, same racetrack, and be able to beat it.
Coming in, can this be? Oh, Australia's put the bow in massive.
He knows that it's never over until it's over.
You almost perform better in adversity, called a fighter, always fighting back no matter what sort of hit you. We're in a fighting gym. Is that something that you grew up with or that you've developed over your competitive career?
I have grown up boxing. Yeah, I guess a lot of people call it fighting. I started boxing when I was about 15 years old, and then I started training mixed martial arts. A lot of people see it as a violent sort of thing, but I just love the technique and technical aspects. For me, it's fitness, and there is a real aspect that you can convert to sailing, being under extreme exhaustion and having to make very important decisions. And I think the training I do off the water on land helps for that.
How much are you looking forward to lining up on that start line with the likes of Ben Ainslie?
I think we're good friends at the moment, but I'm using him as my motivation to get up every morning and go training and work harder. And I know he's probably doing the same with me. But it's good as long as we can push each other to the next level, and hopefully it stays friendly, but you never know. If it doesn't, it doesn't. We're going to still keep going for the win.
I didn't hear one
Okay, well, you can see now some pictures from the Australian boat after the fleet racing yesterday, and the body language on Tom Slingsby here, Lee. So it looks like Ben Ainsley's got inside his head.
Yeah, Tom takes everything to heart, and I know they were very disappointed with yesterday's racing, and I think for them they have to just move on and try focus on themselves. Ben's running away from them, and they just need to get themselves in that match race so that they can have a different battle.
Okay, we've actually got some radio footage because all of the F50s are mic'd up for sound, and we listened into this morning from Tom Slingsby. Have a listen.
So we went sailing. The first 2 days we arrived in Sydney, we felt amazing. And then all of a sudden Jason's like, I'm having a shocker. Like, from then on, for the next 5 days sailing, he's like, I don't know what's happening, but I can't keep up anymore.
Can't keep up with the last week. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I've spoken to a few people about it, nothing's going to happen.
Okay, Tom's talking about Jason Waterhouse, your partner in the NACRA 17. What do you think's going on there? I mean, it's not a blame game, is it?
No, I mean, they are a team, but the flight control is a very important position, and watching yesterday, I thought something was wrong because it wasn't the Australian boat we're used to seeing. Okay,
they changed boards, though, didn't they? And that could have been a bigger element.
Yeah, they were on high-speed boards, and now they're on light air boards, so should see more foiling tacks and jibes.
Okay, slightly more consistent wind direction. It's time to get the first of our 2 fleet races underway for today. So we're going to hand you over to our commentary team. It's Rob Walker, Saskia Clark and Stevie Morrison.
Welcome back to one of the world's most iconic cities for a championship, taking this sport to new speeds and new levels. Day 2 of Season 2 at Sydney SailGP 2020 sees the sailors return to a slightly calmer course than yesterday. No circumnavigation of Shark Island, but a long upwind leg will give great opportunities for the best to pull away. 2 fleet races which will determine who fights it out for the match race and the event win here down under. A collision with the Spanish in race 1 yesterday damaged the French boat, ruling them out of 2 fleet races, but they've bounced back this morning. It's been a baptism of fire for Denmark, 5th their best finish so far. Nikolai Sehersted's team are in 6th overall. With 2 runner-up spots yesterday, Spain should be in 2nd overall, but 9 penalty points for that collision with the French relegated them to 5th overnight. 2 4th-place finishes for the American SailGP team sees them just off the podium. Kirby will be fired up today. The Australians were superb in Season 1, but it was a tricky start yesterday. 3rd overnight, Tom Slingsby will be ready for action. Nathan Outridge did a great job on day 1 with problems with the rudder and a new wing trim and flight controller. Can they close the gap on you-know-who? What a debut for Ben Ainsley, a hat-trick of wins on the first day of his SailGP racing career. The sport's ultimate Olympian is poised and ready for more. So too are the crowd. That's got to be just about the best view in the house. A fabulous afternoon. And from an Australian perspective, the big question is, can the gunslinger Slingsby managed to bounce back? Well, he's got the talent, he's got the pedigree, otherwise he wouldn't be the defending champion. Stevie Morrison alongside me, along with Saskia Clark. Stevie, what does Slingsby need to find in race 4 to recapture the kind of form that took him to the title in 2019?
I think it's very simple. He's got all the tools in the bag, he's got all the skills. In 20 seconds time it's the start, and that's where he's not been good enough to date.
And it doesn't look so great for him right now. He's sort of 2nd row there. He needs to hope that someone in front hasn't got their time and distance right.
Counting down. The top of your screen should be, in theory, the closest line towards the first mark. French have got a big problem there. They've had to turn Great Britain just on the left of picture there, 30 knots, penalty for the Danes and the USA and Spain. Big problems for most. They'll have to drop back. Great Britain picking up speed. We're on board with the British team there. Spanish coming very close behind, and there is a collision there. There was contact. Contact is allowed. So many penalties there. This should technically play into the hands of Great Britain. Only they, Australia, France and Denmark now without a penalty. 34 knots. Well, if Ben Ainsley can get on top here in the early stages of race 4, remember, we've only got 2 fleet races today before the match race, this would give him a commanding position. So far, so good. And from an Australian perspective, this is much, much better from Tom Slingsby.
Perfect from Tom there, got himself out of the blocks. A lot of chaos around him, but he stayed pretty calm. Now's a real chance for him to sail smooth. Yesterday he didn't find his rhythm. First jibe here, we'll see how nicely they're sailing the boat. And I can see a pretty smooth jibe. If you see any spray come over the boat, that's a great indication of a bad jibe. But the British in the background there, up at 35 knots. Boat humming along, and you see those white lines there. You can really see the boat nice and high out the water. A lot easier to sail the boats today, so I expect a higher level of sailing.
You can see those yellow lines on the water. That's the ley line. That's the sort of angle towards the bottom marks that we're expecting. So the British are going on that there. They think they're on the ley line for the right-hand turn at the bottom.
Are we going to lay?
So we've got the just inside the Australians, we can't see them, the Americans and the Spanish. They've got, they might get inside the Australians here at this mark, or the Australians might have got a really good fast angle in. Okay, we've got incident coming in here. Spain might be overlapped. Okay, Australia are clear. They're round in second. That's a solid start for them after yesterday.
Great tight rounding, hard for the Spanish and the Americans here now, but away in the front again. It's a great job for the British team. Japan now have got a bit of work to do. I expect them to try and get out of phase. They're going to be looking to tack early and try and find some space. You can see there the Americans are a little bit slow after this mark. They were compromised before the mark. There go Japan, immediately tacking away, trying to find some space. If they can separate from the Australians ahead of them, that's their best chance to make a gain.
USA in 4th place. Now, well, tickling along with the Japanese. Spain in 3rd. And then you've got Australia in 2nd with Great Britain 1st. And there is Ben Ainsley looking for 4 successive wins. What a start this has been.
It's so quiet on the British boat, you know, they're so smooth with what they're doing, and it's really, they're really flat platform.
Too much further, a little bit though. Yep, good pressure here now.
And it's amazing because they're not saying much to each other. And it's just all happening very easily for them, sailing fast.
We saw there the Japanese didn't do a very good tack after that mark. It took them a long time to get up to speed. Numbers you want to look for today, if you can stay above 18, 19 knots in the tack, you should be expecting the boats to stay on the foil. The British there touched. It's not a perfect tack, but a little indication that there's not quite as much wind as perhaps the teams are used to. You don't really want the boat touching during the tack there. And I think we saw there the British, even who've been showing such great form today, are not quite as perfect as they have been.
This is all setting up really nicely here for the British just to extend their lead. The whole fleet turned right at that bottom mark, and there was a lot of traffic, basically. They were all in a very similar space, all giving each other congestion and traffic and dirty air, and this means the leader can stretch out.
Great action here at the start, a little windward lured. Spain must keep out of British way. Oh, and I think he just missed him there, trying to clear his penalty. I'm pretty sure we don't get any contact. Certainly didn't hear anything from the umpire team. So well judged by Phil Robertson on board the Spanish boat, but certainly pretty marginal. Another tack here for the British.
Well, Will.
So that's the British tack. This should be then into the mark in 1 here.
This is much better from the Australians. They're in hot pursuit. The Spaniards 3rd. I'm trying to look back down the racecourse to see what's going on with the French. I wonder whether their repairs have come under some problems, because I haven't seen them, and they are, according to our graphic and our information, in 7th. That would be hugely disappointing for Billy Besson and the rest of his team.
Interesting here, the Australians have gone a bit closer to that yellow line. Their idea of the ley line is very different to the British, so sailing more distance if the British are right. But at the moment, it's looking hard for the British to make it, so we can expect one more manoeuvre from the British to come away and turn. This could give the Australian a chance to split the course at the top here and go a different way to the British team.
What would your advice be if you were coaching? Would you expect the Australians in second to follow, or would you expect them to go the other way? We saw plenty of that yesterday on day one.
I think looking at the course there's light winds under the land. I would expect a left turn the way the British team are going now to be favourable, so I wouldn't be at all surprised to see the Australians follow. Let's remember, for them today, it's about beating the Japanese and the American team and making it to the final to give them a shot at Ben Ainsley and his team. So there you go, they are tacking now.
We're really expecting sort of some nice breeze down where the British and the Australians are heading now. That's kind of like more open water through Sydney Heads. It's coming, the wind is coming clean through there. The other side of the course is affected by the land.
Spain in third, going well. Japan in fourth. Still no sight of the French. And we are very excited about this battle between the British team, with Ben Ainsley going toe-to-toe with Tom Slingsby, both Olympic champions, both multiple world champions, World Sailors of the Year. But despite the fact that they're down the leaderboard because of those penalties, in sailing terms, the Spaniards are proving to be a great addition in 2020. 2 second-place finishes yesterday, and they're up in the hunt for a podium spot here today. Fabulous sailing by the new European team.
For me, they've been the standout performance. Ben Ainsley turns up, he's got that much gold round his neck, you kind of know he's going to do well, but the Spanish are young, new guys. I've been so impressed with how they're doing, and you see here they've got the boat going 24, 23 knots, really got the boat going well, but really nice to see the Australians pushing back at the front of the fleet here.
Down to the bottom, and then up to the top, and that will be the end of our first fleet race on day 2.
Jason Waterhouse taking his helmet off there. They're complaining about comms issues. They haven't been quite right all weekend. The fact that Jason Waterhouse should be flying the...
Yeah. He's not going to get it. Bumpy, trimming up. Stand by. Under target. Down. He's there. Okay. Careful.
Jason Waterhouse, an Olympic silver medalist, a world champion. He is one of the reasons why Tom Slingsby and Australia took the inaugural title. He is a key part of their team.
Okay, stand by, turn up. 2, 1, turning up.
Listening to the voice of Ben Ainsley, 4 times an Olympic champion, and remember, it was 20 years ago that gold rush began here in Sydney.
Just very impressive for me how calm the Australian team stayed there. I mean, the comms are down. That's crucial in these boats. There's so much noise on board the boat. You can hear it there. And they've got to concentrate with all that noise, but they can't hear each other. So pretty impressive from the Australians, but something they're going to need to fix as the day goes on.
I think it's a good performance from them so far. No frustration after yesterday in those tricky conditions, and they just feel like they've really taken the tempo down today, just getting around the course in good shape.
So we know Great Britain are out front, and Tom Slingsby is having a better day than he has so far yesterday. Spain rounding in third, but Nathan Outridge not too far behind him. And remember, Outridge had 2 third-place finishes yesterday. Solved the problems with the rudder, seems to be bedding in his new wing trim and flight controller really well. We need to keep a close eye on that battle for the 3rd podium spot, because Great Britain are in a commanding position as far as qualification for the match race is concerned, but there's a 2nd spot available.
Absolutely, and the Japanese here really need to overtake the Spanish. If they're only 1 place behind the Australians in this race, then going into that final race today, it'll be winner takes all between them to get through. Japanese, it's been a little bit wet on board. You can see the wing there really sheeted up. Not quite as smooth as we'd like to see from the Japanese. And Nathan, again, he's having some problems there, fiddling with his tether.
There's the 1, 2, 3 as it stands at the moment. Ben Ainsley and Great Britain just towards the left of picture, trying to go 4 on the spin, and the only other sailor who's managed that is the one at the helm of the boat just towards the right. Tom Slingsby had 4 in a row last year, but he is beginning to show signs of the form that took him to 11 fleet race victories in season 1.
Wind's a lot steadier today, Rob, and I think you can see from those ride heights that both the Australian and the British were pretty steady, around 80 centimetres, and the boats look a lot smoother. Yesterday it was very hard to be stable. Now they're both sitting 26, 25 knots, pretty consistent upwind. You can see the height here, British up around 80 centimetres, the Australians a little bit lower. So I think that's that slight edge in speed the British are getting for that. A nice bit of windward heel. Matt talked us through that in the analysis lab, but it's, you know, good manoeuvres and sailing smooth.
And just remind us, for people joining us on SailGP for the first time, how high realistically can you fly before you risk a capsize?
I'm not sure a capsize is your issue. Your problem is it's going to skid sideways if you go too high. But we would like to see the boats up somewhere near a metre above the water on that data. But it's a little bit lighter than we've seen. What's interesting here now, the Japanese have got themselves to the right of the Spanish. At the moment, Spain will not be able to tack and cross the Japanese, so a potential overtake when they come together later.
Well, this could be very significant, Sass, in the battle to join probably Great Britain in the match race. They've got a commanding lead at the moment, but that battle for third is key.
The Japanese really need to hold on to third here to keep really in touching distance of the Aussies. And they're equal points going to this race, as that point will be really valuable going to race 5.
Well, this is absolutely incredible. Practice day 1, 2 wins for Ben Ainslie. Practice day 2, 3 wins. Race day 1, 3 wins, and he's going to continue this fantastic run of form here this afternoon in Sydney. This has just been phenomenal. It is, without doubt, the start that he was dreaming of.
Okay, coming down, Goose. Make sure it's downwind, boys.
So that's obviously Ben through the finish, but they've got a really important race on for third here.
In the background, the Japanese had just crossed the Spanish. They've got one more tack to the last mark. And so what we're going to be looking to see is the execution from the Japanese.
It looks like the Japanese have got the inside on the mark there. Cool, perfect. Good have they executed a good tack there? The Japanese are a bit slow and a bit low in the water. Are they going to accelerate quick enough? They're ahead. Yeah, they've got good position there. They're going to elbows out. Spanish can't get past.
Just to clarify, out of picture, Tom Slingsby and Australia are crossing for second place. That's the best result they've had in our fleet races since the opening race yesterday. Nathan Outridge closing in on the line, and it's a third place finish for him. Wow, taking on a little bit of water, doesn't matter. They've crossed the finish line, and that could be a very, very significant performance come the shake-up for the match race. The Spaniards, the interim helm Phil Robertson, bringing them home in 4th place for the opening race of day 2. But that was key for Nathan Outridge. It got very, very tight towards the end of fleet race 4, but very good sailing from the 2012 Olympic champion as we watch Rome Kirby bringing the Americans home in 4th place. The 3rd time they finished in that position. It's been a better start to season 2 for them. So Rome Kirby across the line. He was actually in 5th, and it's Billy Besson coming home with the French ahead of Nikolai Sehested. It's been a really difficult week this week for the Danes. The highest they finished across all the practice and race days is 5th. Billy Besson will just be relieved to be racing again after having to miss the 2nd and 3rd fleet races yesterday. And that was what contributed to the Spaniards losing 9 penalty points. 5 for a collision and 2 lots of 2 for each of the races the French were unable to compete in. And those 9 penalty points could be absolutely vital in their battle to try and make the match race. But once again, nobody can find a way past Ben Ainslie and the Brits.
Yeah, I mean, I think once again it was a great start from Ben Ainslie there. Nailed the start, solid from Tom, but it got him in the race. That'll really get his confidence back up, I think. And then as a key moment was that leeward gate. The Japanese came in round the mark in about 5th or 6th position, and what they did a great job of was tacking early, getting themselves space, getting away from the boats, and what a fantastic finish for the crowd there.
That will make great reading for Ben Ainslie and the British team. 10 points, taking that win. Well, it was tight, but it didn't matter. Much better from Tom Slingsby, but he knows he's got Nathan Outridge and Japan hot on his heels in the battle for that 2nd match race position. Spain in 4th, Denmark, unfortunately, still bringing up the rear. One more fleet race to come before the climax of our weekend.
Welcome back to Sydney Harbour. So we can see the first race result. And it's a clean sweep for Great Britain. Business as usual for Ben Ainsley. Another 10 points puts him on a perfect 40 points from 4 races. Australia on 9 puts them on 32 overall, and Japan with 8 points just behind them with 31 points. United States, who were in the hunt for that second match race position because Great Britain are all but guaranteed that spot, are now out of the running, down on 25 points in total. So, Lisa, it's almost becoming inevitable, you could say. Ben Ainsley made that look relatively easy, leading from the front, but it almost wasn't so. And Phil Robertson was right in the thick of it again, wasn't he?
Yeah, I think you can get a clear start, but it's about that first turning mark, and Ben chose to start on the bottom end of the line and needed to sneak around there. So he had to hold Phil up, and as you can see there, the Spanish had to avoid because they're the windward boat. Ben was able to sneak around that mark, and then he was just away.
He's really puffing out his chest at that stage, wasn't he? Do you think Phil Robertson has learned his lesson from yesterday?
Well, I think Phil's showing he's still willing to push the limits, but I think he has learned his lesson and didn't have contact.
Okay, and then the race, very much. Once Britain had made the distance and got out in the lead, we made the race suddenly became about Japan and Australia and that fight for second position.
It's like deja vu last season. The rivalry continues, but this time it's a fight for second place, and I think they're both going to be fighting very hard. It's almost who beats who in this race for that spot in the match race, and then to take on the British for the event win.
The Australia of old, though, glimpsing here, they looked very steady throughout, even when we saw these shots of Jason Waterhouse struggling with his comms.
Yeah, I think the team looked a lot better. Their manoeuvres were a lot slicker, and they were able to get the boat flying around the racetrack. Maybe it's the boards, but they did have some comm issues. Jason taking his helmet off, which I wasn't happy with. Doesn't look very safe, but the fact that they got a second there, I think that they'll be happy with, and they know that they're sailing better than yesterday. So hopefully the momentum continues.
Nathan Outridge far from out of this. Only a point separating them in the final fleet race.
Yeah, you can never count Nathan Outridge out, and I think that their team is very impressive. The fact that they're a completely two different people in front of Nathan. He's sailing fantastic, and the Aussies have a lot on.
Okay, second fleet race promises to be very, very tight. Before we get stuck into that, though, we're going to head over to Matt Cornwell in the analysis hub, who's going to take a closer look at that very, very dramatic start.
Thanks, Ed. We're going to talk about that start, of course. It was incredible. All teams want to get a good start, and they're chomping at the bit to get across that start line. But you have to keep your cool and get your judgment right. We're going to look on the virtual race course here. We've got live data coming through the Oracle Cloud, and this is about 25 seconds before that start. And look at the Brits and the Australians at the back there. The other 4 boats are all early, and the Australians and the Brits, it's easy to get nervous here about the fact that they're behind the other boats. And another thing that happens is if some boats are over, it's easy to get dragged over. We'll just pause it right here. Also, look at the French at the top. They're in a situation, there's a really high risk starting up there. There's clear air up there, but they get shut out there. They don't even make it in the mark. And that's start time. 1, 2, 3, 4 boats over. Pre-starts are incredibly chaotic. There's so much going on. But if you can keep your cool and trust your judgment, that's really important. And if you can do that every time, you're going to get good starts. Thanks very much, Ed. Really looking forward to this next one.
Thank you very much, Matt. Now, there's one team who've been at the centre, as we've just said, of almost all of the big moments so far. They are by far the youngest team and the newest team in the fleet. It's the Spanish, and they're helmed by the mischief maker, Phil Robertson.
A brand new team, the Spanish. A temporary helm in Phil Robertson, packed with youth and Olympic potential. Spaniards going brilliantly.
Pretty tight, brave call from Phil Robertson. Too close. Whoa!
Hi, I'm Florian Trittel, skipper and wing trimmer of SailGP Team Spain. I had been the flight controller on the AC-45s in Bermuda. Jody, our helmsman, and myself, we had been really pushing to find new goals and new projects for the team, and that's how I ended up here now. Being here for us obviously is an honor, representing Spain. Jordi Chamar, he's been the leader, and he's been starting the Spanish Impulse Spain SailGP project since the very beginning. And I think he's one of the most talented sportsmen I've ever met. So we got Phil Robertson, a Kiwi, as the interim helmsman, helping us out with all the learning process, which is really important to get going in such a strong fleet.
Phil Robertson on helm, Florian Trittel doing a great job as wing trimmer.
After that, we have Diego and Joel. Joel Rodriguez right now is our flight controller #1.
Look at that turn by the Spanish.
Then we got Iago Lopez Marra. He's, together with Diego, vice world champion in the 49ers. And then the biggest and strongest of our team is MATEU BARBER. He's a grinder. He's been grinding for, I think, his entire life.
The grinders working hard. It really is a team effort.
Fantastic joining the other 6 teams, having 7 teams on the starting line.
Yesterday was really nice because you had a lot of power.
Tom Slingsby, Ben Ainsley, Nathan Outridge, they're your idols when you're small and obviously as well when you're big, because they just keep performing and they have proven to be the best sailors on the planet. And then now, all of a sudden, we're here with them and we can race against them.
Now, there's a very close connection between you and Florian Trittel, isn't there?
Yeah, I race Flo in the NACRA 17. I think he's one of those sailors with so much flair and natural talent. So it looks like he's really enjoying himself out there. And I think that, you know, they've showed that they're willing to push at the front of the fleet, and we can expect really good things from them.
It's one of the things that's really impressed me about them so far is that they haven't been cowed by the occasion or the pressure of racing in SailGP. They look like they're relishing the challenge.
Yeah, they all grew up sailing together and racing together as a team. So I think they're just, as he said, so honoured to be here. And I think that's a really humble way to look at things. Not afraid, but they respect their competitors, but they're willing to push them.
Okay, they raced in the Youth America's Cup in 2017 ensemble. Do you think that's helped them bed into the F50 as quickly as they have?
Yeah, I think what we're learning is these boats are a team effort, and if one person goes down, you're going to struggle. So I think having Phil being able to guide them in the early part of the season will be good, so that when Geordie comes back after the Olympics, he'll be able to just step in and hopefully his team can run the boat.
Okay, looking back at the rest of the fleet, we've got, it's almost familiar territory. It's Australia versus Japan, but there's only one spot in the match race up for grabs.
Yeah, well, it's neck and neck. It's who beats who. So I wouldn't be surprised if we see a little tussle pre-start between the two of them, and maybe Ben Ainsley will manufacture who he wants to go head-to-head with in the final race.
Okay, that will be very interesting. How could he do it?
Well, he might take out the one that he doesn't want to race, and Tom has shown that he's the stronger match racer, so maybe he'll let Japan go.
Okay, that is a strategy to keep your eye out for. We're about to get the second and final fleet race of the day out of the way. It's time to hand you over to our commentators, Rob Walker, Saskia Clark, and Stevie Morrison.
Well, what an afternoon we're enjoying, and what an afternoon they're enjoying. Alongside the world-class sailing, SailGP is encouraging the next generation with their Inspire program. 16 youth sailors under the age of 20 have been given 5 days of WASPs sailing out here on the harbour. SailGP doing its bit to make sure that there will be another generation of the likes of Tom Slingsby and Nathan Outridge, the Aussie at the helm for Japan. And speaking of Japan and Australia, as we were hearing, the key battle in this race, whoever finishes in front between Australia and Japan will, all honesty, be the ones taking on Great Britain in the match race. So, one-on-one, there is the loosest outside chance that the Americans might sneak in mathematically. But in reality, what we're watching for here in Fleet Race 5 is Australia against Japan. Great Britain already there, barring a disqualification.
Yeah, absolutely. I think the British are in an odd position at the moment to the left of the screen there, but we've got to expect a big fight between the Japanese and the Australians. The leeward end of the line, which is going to give you the inside position at Mark 1, is kind of the key. So whoever's going to get that is going to be winning. Japanese behind the Australians here. They're going to be coming in, trying to push Australia. But Tom Slingsby's rolling across the front of the fleet there to gain control. It's going to be hard for Japan from here.
The inside is on the far side as we look at it. Tom Slingsby coming towards the top end. Early is the call. Remember, they must not cross that line until the red disappears. Looks as though it's clean at the moment. It's Australia up on the top end, America in the middle. And there is an issue with the British boat. We'll come back to that. Remember, barring a disqualification, they will be in the match race. This is all about Australia and Japan. And this is a sight that the Australian fans on those boats will be loving to see here. Tom Slingsby out in front, and this is the kind of start that took him to so many fleet wins, 11 in season 1.
That is how you do it. You know, this is a who beats who race, basically, with him, the Japanese. Come out, nail the start, he's out in front.
And there go Japan, they're behind, they've got to try and make something happen, so we're seeing them jibe immediately at the mark. They're going to look for the opposite side of the course to the Australians. I've got to say, I feel this is a bit of a desperation move. The wind's been better down by this boundary where the Australians are, but Japan have got to do something. They've not done a great job at the start, and Tom Slingsby's got that chance now. Keep it simple, sail the boat fast, and it should be a relatively smooth environment.
We saw in that previous race, tactically, it's a lot simpler than yesterday. The boats were sort of following a very similar trace to each other. I think just trying to stay in the best wind on the left-hand side of the course as you look upwind, which actually now is the right-hand side of our screen.
As we look at the screen now, the Japanese have got a great angle. They're moving through on the French. Potentially, they're already very, very close to the Spanish team. So really quite a good move from Outridge there. Must have seen something that we didn't. Manoeuvring the boat again here. He's certainly making a great effort to get back into it, and it's going to be tight with the French.
Superb boat speed on that far side from Nathan Outridge. Remember, he's working with a new wing trim and flight controller. Superb effort here from Outridge. By the way, you might have just heard some industrial style language. This is world-class racing, and we're privileged to get these microphones on board. It's all in the heat of the moment. They didn't mean any offence. I hope you didn't take any, but we love getting up close and personal and hearing the audio and the teamwork and the building that goes on to make these boats as good and as fast as they are.
We just heard the Aussies there saying everyone's following on this turn up. You know, they've got lovely control over this race now. We really expect them to stretch their legs and just extend. What'll be really interesting to see how the British get back into this. They're obviously out the back right now, not in screen, but have they got the speed to get through a pack of boats?
And if they've got issues, will those issues mechanically or technically follow them into the match race? We'll find out.
Yeah, you can see there at the back, it's getting a little bit messy, a lot of heel on the American boat. And Japan now, they've got to do something special. Looks like he's going to follow early on, not trying to rush, but it's going to be hard for him to find space. You can see Slingsby's up and running.
Penalty USA relative Denmark. Penalty USA relative Denmark.
That was for a windward leeward situation at the bottom mark. I think potentially America came diving in at the bottom mark, but in terms of this overall race, it's this boat we see on screen right now, the Australian boat, who are stretching out from that excellent start. They're looking a lot smoother today, much more comfortable in their game, and that's really nice to see.
Like, really nice to see, because actually it hasn't been simple. They've had problems with their comms, and you know, that could have, the frustration could have built, especially on the back of yesterday, but they've just calmed it all down, simplified it. Wind-wise, it's a bit simpler, which kind of makes it, you know, makes it a bit nice and a bit more straightforward. And just, you know, the boats are all doing very similar traces.
You can see in the small camera there, Japan sailing the boat very nicely. They're opening the angles and doing a good job.
25 to top.
This is the umpires. USA, you have a penalty relative Denmark. Penalty, relative Denmark.
Confirmation of the penalty for USA. Great to get that onboard audio with the Australians. And Sass, they're beginning to build a little bit of momentum here.
Follow my verbal.
Second
USA,
place behind Great Britain in fleet race 4. This looks like a victory. It tees up the match race beautifully against the Brits.
Yeah, it really does. I mean, importantly, the Australians have done exactly what they needed to do. They needed to come out today, settle their nerves or whatever it was from yesterday that was causing the problem, and you know, just get on with it. Get on with sailing well. Get on with sailing the boat well. Communicating well. You can hear them. They don't sound stressed. They sound cool. And we need to see what's going on with the British. They're starting to climb through the fleet. Hopefully, it's nothing that's going to stop, you know, like impinge them in this match race.
I think Japan have done a great job of getting out of phase. They've managed to find space. They're on the opposite side of the screen to the other 3 boats. They're going to be coming at the Spanish now on starboard, and this next cross could see the Japanese ahead as they've got the right of way on the Spanish.
And remember, if you're just joining us, the key
still got the penalty.
to watch
USA
here,
still have a penalty.
Australia against Japan. Whoever finishes higher up will be coming back for the match race, and at the moment it looks very definitely as though it will be Tom Slingsby. But you can never write off an Olympic champion. Nathan Outridge at the helm for Japan, doing his level best to put his compatriot flying under a different flag under some pressure here towards the closing stages of Fleet Race 5.
Indeed, you can never write off Nathan.
Penalty clear, USA. Penalty clear.
If the Australians lose from here, it's an absolute disaster. You know, they're in a controlling position. They're lovely out and head, a long way out and head. They have got control, and they should not lose this.
That was a lovely manoeuvre there, tack bear away, so they've had to do 2 manoeuvres in one, managed to keep the boat in the air. Nathan's actually sailed a great beat. I think they're sailing the boat nicely. I imagine he's going to follow the Australians here, because the right thing to do is to follow. The wind shifted to the left, there's more wind to the left. Oh, he's got a close situation with the Spanish. He's just turned the boat away a long way there. Yeah, there come the Spanish into screen. So that's going to make it hard for Nathan. I guess he's going to have to go turning right on that mark, split with the Spanish, but that top of screen where all those yachts are, under the land, a lot less wind, so he's going to want to get out of there pretty quickly.
And this, yet again, is an indication as to how talented this Spanish team is. I know we've got Phil Robertson as an interim helm, and Jordi Yama will be coming back after his Olympic campaign. This is brilliant for SailGP that we've got a young, talented outfit who are up for it and not intimidated by the likes of Outridge and Slingsby and Ainsley.
Yeah, definitely true about the Spanish there, but just going back to this race, we've had quite a big left-hand shift.
Penalty relative USA. Denmark, penalty relative USA.
Okay, so penalties going on at the back. And that's a nice gain there to the Japanese. Still way off. The Australians are coming back to the centre of the course, you know, kind of kicking him off, getting back control.
Yeah, you can just see there, they're both sailing the boat nicely, good ride height, but this black patch of water that Japan gained in, Australia have now found their way to. So as much as we see Japan looking pretty locked in, boat heeled to windward, that's what Matt was talking about in the analysis hub. The boat leaning on top of them to try and get that maximum righting moment, maximum power, effectively. We've got a split happening now. I think Australia should be able to do it one more manoeuvre to get to the favoured position. There's the ley line, that yellow line suggests they'll be able to make the gate in one from here. But I think the Spanish and the Australians have been heading a nice way, and potentially Japan's going to be forced into some extra manoeuvres by crossing the boats there.
Down to the bottom, up to the top, and then we will know for certain that it's Ainsley against Slingsby, Great Britain against Australia, a mouth-watering prospect. Slingsby is almost there.
Yeah, he is, and he's got control of this. You know, I think we'll just see a nice, simple beat from him coming up tactically. Not doing, you know, all he has to do is sort of mark the Japanese. He needs to do nothing risky on the Japanese boat. Got a bit of a Spanish across there with a right-of-way boat there, starboard. Be interesting to see what the Japanese do, whether they might follow them in or maybe take a left-hand turn. The left-hand turn is really hard to do from this point. They've just done a manoeuvre, and there's less wind in that bottom right-hand corner anyway.
I think the hard thing as well is, you know, it's quite clear that this right turn at the bottom's favoured, and you don't gain by doing what you know to be the wrong thing. So he's really hoping for a mistake from Australia here. He's got to sail the boat smoothly, and I think, you know, trying to keep that flow is important for Japan as they look to build on the season. Certainly sailing the boat nicely, but it's not been
setting up tack, my wing.
It's just not been a great start from the Japanese boat in this race, and it's put them on the back foot, basically. But you can see they're still calm on board. Nathan sounded really calm there in the boat, but I think he's starting to run out of options. The wind's just not as unstable as yesterday, and the details, like this tack here, you can see the windward hull splashing into the water there. It's just not a great tack. The boat touches down, the speed's under 20 knot, which means they weren't foiling instantly, and there's a couple of metres lost in there, and that details what we expect them to really improve between now and San Fran.
Well, they're looking as though they're, at the moment, heading towards another podium finish, the Japanese, as we listen in to the Australians.
Okay, getting softer this way. Okay, stand by. Board down. Just still build. 2, 1, lost, turning.
So you heard Jason Waterhouse there say getting softer this way. What that means is he thinks there's less wind. Softer means less wind. You want as much wind as you can find. So they've tacked away, they've changed direction. They're now going from right to left on the screen, the opposite way to everyone else, because they want to get away from the light wind under Shark Island and back out to the left where they know there's more wind. So yeah, Australian for less wind there, softer.
Well, this will make great viewing from the Australians' point of view. There are loads of them on Shark Island and on the boats just on the other side of the boundary line. their star man, a World Sailor of the Year, an Olympic champion, a 9-time world champion. This is a guy so motivated and so in love with sailing. After taking the inaugural SailGP title, instead of heading off to the Caribbean with a bottle of champagne, he went to the World Championships and took the Moth crown. This guy is hungry for success, and he will be absolutely delighted that he's finally seeing a 1 by his name on one of these fleet races, because he did struggle yesterday, finishing the 3rd fleet race down in 5th. Spain 2nd, Japan 3rd, Great Britain look as though they're coming back into the mix. So whatever problems they had, they'll be hoping that they can overcome them before the match race against Slingsby.
You asked me earlier on, though, what was the problem with Australia yesterday? Well, Great Britain have had a bad start here, and they're not just flying through and winning the race. The quality of this fleet's a lot higher this year, and it just shows if you don't get the start, even Great Britain and Ben Ainsley can't just work magic and come through. See the Australians, they're piecing these dark patches of water together. They're clear, able to make their own decisions, and they've done a fantastic job. And actually the Spanish again, another great start, perfect ley line there, right on that yellow line. But yeah, the start's so crucial in these boats, and I don't think there was anything fundamentally wrong with the Australians. They just were not executing well enough yesterday. They didn't sail well, is the reality. They're great sailors, and we're starting to see what they can do.
And Sass, if anybody knows these waters, it is Tom Slingsby. He has been sailing here for years and years and years, since he was knee-high to a grasshopper.
Yeah, I mean, he knows Sydney well, but he didn't have a good day yesterday. And yesterday, the wind coming off the land like it did yesterday is a really hectic day. It's kind of a bit random and stuff, and you need to be cool and calm and collected to deal with it, and they weren't that yesterday with their sailing.
Tom Slingsby back on top here in Fleet Race 5, and it tees us up for a mouth-watering climax to our weekend in Sydney. Game on between two of sailing's all-time heavyweights. It will be Slingsby against Ainsley for the Sydney SailGP Event win. Wonderful second place for the Spaniards. That's a hat-trick of silvers, if you like, for Phil Robertson's young, talented crew. And Nathan Outridge coming home. It will be 4 third-place finishes for them. And bearing in mind the changes that they've had in the off-season, that is not too shabby at all. Ben Ainsley and Great Britain coming home in 4th. They were already home and hosed as far as the match race was concerned. Only a disqualification would have seen them eliminated after the 5th fleet race. But food for thought after Tom Slingsby has declared that he's back on form and hungry to defend the Sydney win that he produced in fine style 12 months ago.
It's all about coffin corner, just the way out of it.
Just sounded like Ben Ainsley apologising to the team. I think in the pre-start they got stuck in no wind really here. And you can see now, great race between the French and the Danish team at the back there. Americans again in this 5th position. I think they're sailing the boat very nicely, but just need to find their way off the start line there. Great height on the boat, sailing the boat quite smoothly, but as of yet able to really consistently put the racing side of thing together.
Rome Kirby at the helm for the Americans, the grinders working hard. It hasn't been a bad event for the Americans. They've been so close to the podium in so many of the races, so many times finishing 4th and 5th, just not quite able to find that extra couple of 100 metres.
They've actually started really well, and their stats from yesterday got them round the first set of lured gates in pretty good shape. And then I think they're just a bit inconsistent on their manoeuvres, and just, you know, dropping sort of 4th to 5th is kind of where they're at the moment, and they need to be a bit tighter.
Just in the background, if we look at the French boat now and you look at the jib, it's very hard to see, but at the moment the jib's just flapping on that boat, so it just looks like, I think someone yesterday, I think it might have been Ed, described the French as a bad luck sponge, and right now I think that's kind of really the case, because if their jib sheet's broken, which is what that suggests another little bit of gear failure, or a slight lack of detail. There you go, you can just see that front sail there flapping. And you know, it's a 1 sail and 1 wing boat, but you definitely don't just want the jib flapping in the breeze like that, because one of the great sayings is a flappy sail is not a happy sail, and that's really, you know, not good news for the French. Good for the Danish, solid start. They kind of didn't want the wooden spoon, and I think that finish is going to make sure they don't get the wooden spoon at this event, and they've looked good. I mean, look, this is the top sailing series in the world, and this championship's not going to be easy over the course of the year. They've done well, but the French have certainly got a lot to think about after this.
And Saskia, we were talking over breakfast. You were saying, listen, only a couple of hundred sailors will have the experience and knowledge and technical expertise to make these F-50s fly. Hundreds of thousands of people sail all over the world, but not in boats like this. This is highly specialised sailing.
Yeah, these wing sails, we're sort of chatting away like it's been around for ages. You know, it hasn't been around for ages. It's been around sort of 10 years, 15 years in the America's Cup and stuff. And most of us, the sailors, have got no idea what it's like to trim one of these sails. And you know, in terms of technology, it's like an airplane wing. You've got a flap which you can tighten or twist, which gives you power or loses you power. And it's really fine-tuning that for speed. And you know, these guys, obviously in these boats, really have got that down to a fine art.
Wow. Tom Slingsby back on top in Fleet Race 5, and that win and the 10 points means he is coming back for the match race against Ben Ainsley. Another second-place finish for Phil Robertson and the Spaniards, and another third-place finish for Nathan Outridge. Fourth for Great Britain. Well, they've had 4 fleet wins, so that's not too shabby, and they'll come back desperate to take it to the gunslinger in the showdown of the weekend.
So we have confirmation of our 2 teams who will be going toe-to-toe in the event final. Ben Ainsley on the Great Britain SailGP boat, and he'll be going up against the reigning champion, Tom Slingsby of Australia. And it's a dream come true for Tom Slingsby.
Yeah, he said he wanted to go head-to-head against his hero, and now he's got that opportunity.
Do you think it'll be his dream to get beaten by his hero?
Definitely not, but I'm expecting an aggressive fight. I think that pre-start routine is going to be really interesting, and I think the Australians can't let the British team run away, because I'm not sure they'll catch them.
Okay, the match race is coming up very shortly, but before that, SailGP has committed on a drive to go carbon neutral before 2025, and already we're seeing different technologies adopted that are going to help them do that. Let's take a closer look.
The boats are powered by battery. We have a lot of electronics and hydraulics, and everything, all the pumps and hydraulic pumps run off battery power. So the only thing that's not powered by battery is the actual wing winch, which we have grinders that control that. The batteries are extremely important. It's kind of like our lifeline. If we don't have batteries that are charged, if we get low, nothing on the boat functions. So it's as simple as that. So previous season, we had generators that kind of ran overnight, that would charge our batteries on site. Now we have a container, 40-foot container, and there's a big bunch of solar panels, and basically during the day that charges the Tesla batteries, and then overnight we charge our boat batteries. So looking to be a lot more sustainable.
Charging through solar panels, it takes the same amount of time, but it's clean. So we're not running off diesel generators. We're using the power of the sun to charge these things, and it's a massive step up for us in terms of sustainability. Obviously last year was our first season, and we were on a massive learning curve, and we've taken what we learned from last season and applied it to now, and this is where we've ended up. With the current racking system that we have, we've basically set it up so that each team has 4 batteries, so we can charge 32 batteries at any one time, all at the same time, all on the same level. So the capacity and the reserve energy that we have within the system is massive.
This setup, basically it's got to be completely mobile. We're only here for, like this regatta, we're here for 3.5 weeks. So everything comes in on the container, comes out, and it has to be packed away within 3 weeks and off on the next ship to our next event.
As far as I'm aware, we're the first people to try it. We are trialling it on this container only at the moment, but the plan is we'll get some data from this event and roll it out across a broader scale within the SailGP group.
Our boats are powered by the wind, but now our batteries are charged by the sun. But we obviously want to be carbon neutral come 2025. This is a step in the right direction.
A lot of work being done to make sure SailGP is carbon neutral ahead of 2025. Now back to the match race, and Tom Slingsby has redeemed himself in the first 2 fleet races, and we can chat to him now out on the boat and find out how he's preparing ahead of the match race.
Tom, last year you swept all before you here at Sydney, but it took you guys a little while to get going, but you're bubbling up nicely. A 2nd place and then a win in the final fleet race. Perfect timing for a big showdown.
Yeah, just in time. We snuck into the match race final. Yeah, we're finding form. We've still got a lot to improve on, but we're getting there.
What's made the difference today?
We're very good at analysing what's going on and when we're making mistakes, what the problems are. And then, yeah, we always seem to come good on the last day. We take a little while to warm up, it seems, but yeah, look, we're just sailing better. We're making less mistakes and getting off the line a bit better too.
Well, good luck for the match race. We cannot wait for that one. 2 big guns going toe-to-toe.
Yeah, now it'll be fun. Big Bad Ben. We'll give it a go.
There's special significance with the match race as well. Talk us through the points that are available, Lisa.
Yeah, so even though the British team might be 4 points clear, it's who beats who in the match race. If the Australians were to win the match race, they would match the British points +1. So it is all on the line for the Australians, and the British could lose it all. So, yeah, it's tight racing, and it will make a difference in the whole championship.
OK, you mentioned earlier on that it's imperative that Tom Slingsby can block Ben Ainsley in the start box, because if he gets away, he's going to be gone, isn't he?
Yeah, this weekend the British boat has been the fastest boat out there, so I think it will be an aggressive start in the pre-start, and they will go head-to-head against each other as hard as possible. And I think you got 2 tactical sailors. It'll be a great show.
2 best sailors in the world right now in the fastest class of racing boat. This is the finale of the Sydney SailGP.
Well, here we are. The match race is almost upon us. And it is, as far as the script is concerned, a perfect lineup. Tom Slingsby and Australia. They are the reigning defending champions. There is Slingsby at the helm. He was simply sensational last year. A little bit slow out the blocks yesterday, but he's arrived at peak form at just the right time. And Ben Ainsley now entering the pre-start. He has the advantage of an extra 10 seconds because he is top of the leaderboard. But as we heard from Lisa, it is winner takes all as far as this match race is concerned. He's chosen the port tack, and Stevie presumably because it requires the fewer manoeuvres. What do we need to see here that will give us any clues as to who's going to get across that start line first? The Australians have got a penalty.
Well, that's the Australians have got a penalty for entering the box early, so they should be able to clear that with a couple of jibes or a couple of tacks, so turning the boat through and that'll clear the penalty. But yeah, Great Britain, because they've won the opening part of this event, they basically now get to choose whether they come in first. It's kind of like serving in tennis. If you're the first one in, you get to control the start. Now clearly this is a bit of difficult for Ben now, because he wouldn't be expecting the Australians to have this penalty.
Okay, you got 40 here, Carl. He's going to... Carl, okay, big ease. Okay, we've done 2 jobs. It should turn off.
So they're just waiting for that penalty
not turning off.
to be completed. It's not turning off.
Penalty is complete on Australia. Reason was software problems. Penalty complete.
So the penalty is complete. Saskia, this is a completely different type of race.
Mate, driving.
Yeah, this is, whoever wins this takes the weekend. So everything that's gone before with Ben dominating the weekend is irrelevant right now.
Keep it going, keep going.
Stevie Morrison spotted that. Go hard or go home, right on the front of the British boat. Well, let's see. It is a long journey back to Great Britain. We're about to find out if they're going home with the first event win of the championship.
Australian boat's really slow in the back of the box there, Rob. It's quite hard for Ben to control anything here. Ben looks quite close to the line. It's going to be time on distance. How close can the Australians get?
He must not cross that line before the clock has ticked down. Ben Ainsley looking to record a maiden SailGP event win. And what an advantage this is. Up to 30, 31, 32 knots. Tom Slingsby has it all to do here in the early stages. Advantage, Great Britain.
Absolutely. So there was a penalty in the pre-start. Obviously, we've heard talk of computer issues, but that's irrelevant. We're up and racing now. Ben, a really hard start for Ben to control there. He'd have probably rather been in a fight that he was expecting, but he managed it very well. Time on distance from the British boat's great. Australia now have got very little choice but to lock in. Forget that. Let's forget that's how. We can't change that. We can't change history. We've got to sail the boat smoothly and try and chip away the yards. But let's be honest there, you can see Ben and the boys extending in the background. If they can sail smooth and fast now, it's going to be very, very hard for Tom.
Good pressure whole way. Stand by. Yeah, feels nice here. Says that we're knocking the legs out, so.
Great shots to see both helms trying to outmaneuver one another. And just if you are joining us, we're looking at 2 Olympic champions, multiple world champions, and World Sailors of the Year. They are, it's no exaggeration to say, 2 of the all-time greats going toe-to-toe here. What a privilege for everybody to witness sailors of this caliber and this experience going eyeball to eyeball for the first championship win of 2020.
Yeah, there's a whole lot of Olympic medals jangling around this course right now in both of these boats. Really talented, good sailors. Real shame for the Australians there. The sort of comms coming through is that they weren't happy with their software going to that start, and so they basically were sort of kind of doing it a bit blind, and that basically has really given Ben the upper hand. And it's mentally, they're in a really hard position here because Ben is just going to not give them an inch.
Oh, and we can see there, I mean, they're trying to force it there. They've gone left turn at the bottom here. That was a really bad jibe from the Australian. Whether that was a glitch, I don't know. But we'll hopefully get to look at that jibe in a moment. But the British now on the same tack on the left of the screen, but they're going with the Australian boat on the right of the screen. That's what's called cutting down leverage. Australia's thing here is they want to be going right to left when Britain's going left to right. At the moment, they're both going up the screen. That's great for Britain. Makes a hard situation for Tom Slingsby and the boys here to get themselves back in this race. 225 metres is a long, long distance, even in these fast boats.
Right, so Saskia, we know all about Tom Slingsby's credentials, but he can't work miracles. What does he need to do here to get the Australians back into contention?
So in classic match racing terms, you just start doing manoeuvres to basically try and force a mistake from the British team. Throw in tacks. to try and just make an error, but that is quite a lot of distance to cut down. And we've seen it this week. The British aren't really making that many mistakes on their manoeuvres.
I would say on that first downwind leg, we saw some pretty bad manoeuvres. So here we go, the British. See the rudder come out of the water on the Australian boat there? That's a huge amount of downforce lost. It pitches the boat forward and stuffs the bow in. So that's a slight inaccuracy. I mean, we're not used to seeing that, are we? They've been bulletproof with all these manoeuvres. Probably one of their harder manoeuvres there, but that rudder jumping out made it very hard. I have to say, you know, it's the match race, the pressure's on. We actually saw the British wobble out of their first jibe, so this isn't over yet, but for sure, as Saskia says, we need to force manoeuvres into the British team. But you can see there the British tacking in synchronisation with the Australian. Ben's certainly not making it easy.
Okay, pressure this way.
Going into the wind, it's particularly hard for the Australians. The British will just stay between them and where they're going, and the wind is coming that way. So the wind, if the wind increases, the British always get it first. They get that game first. If there is opportunity, kind of on a wind point, it'll probably be on the downwind where the Australians will get that gust first.
And how much of this comes down to the personalities of the two helms involved? I mean, yeah, we know there are 5 world-class sailors on both boats, but Slingsby in particular seems to throw his whole life and his whole energy into sailing. You know, he's into jiu-jitsu. He's an all-action hero. He really goes for it. You're going to see that aggression. Does it come down to their personalities and how they sail as people, as well as, you know, world-class technicians?
I don't think that's really the case. You saw there Shark Island had a huge crowd on it. There's an amazing spectator field here watching the racing in Sydney Harbour, and maybe there's an extra pressure, but ultimately it came down at the start. There was an issue, he was a bit behind. It's a case now of sailing smooth, and does the British make an issue? Look how high they're flying the boat on those white lines.
Got us join in again.
Bit of heel, but the comms are just so clear. 2 and in, 2 jibes, and then we'll be round the mark.
The British are coming down in a lovely gust of wind here, like, you know, good top speed they'll be pushing out here. The Australians just passed through the back of shot. It looked like they were going to come the same way. There's not really any opportunity for them to jibe away and go a different way to the British to try and find something.
And as far as the narrative of Season 2 is concerned, the Australians now over 400 metres adrift. This year is going to be fascinating. Season 1 was, without doubt, no disrespect to the rest of the teams, it was all about Australia and Japan. Now we've got a third powerhouse coming into the mix, and it means that the gauntlet is being laid down to Tom Slingsby and the Australians as defending champions.
Yeah, I mean, I was kind of surprised how well the British team have kind of jumped in and been, you know, kicking it hard and going fast from, you know, their first day. I expected them to be good, but I think I probably expected them to slot into the field second or third-ish. But it's really impressive. And you know, there's a gap between this event and San Francisco, and the other teams are going to have to go away and think about how they're going to get this back.
Up to the top now for the finish. Great Britain, up until this year, had won one single fleet race. That was race 4 in San Francisco, but they had not come anywhere near to winning a match race. And we've just heard the information from Ben Ainsley to his 4 teammates. Let's keep it simple. Let's make sure we get the job done. As Tom Slingsby comes round, 30 knots coming round that ley line. Well, surely it's too late for Tom Slingsby. All the damage was done right at the start.
Yeah, it was, but you heard on board the boat there, Ben and Gooby, Ian Jensen confirming left turn to the finish, which obviously, you know, we've been watching this racing all week, and it's just great to hear he's doing the simple things right. Let's make sure we turn left to the finish. Let's make sure we're on top of what the course is. Let's keep the simple things happening. The funny thing about being behind, like the Australians are here, is it forces Ben, he's got such a gap that it's going to give the Australians an opportunity to get out of phase, to be going the opposite way. I think the gap's too much, but it's interesting to see for later in the series, in the championship, that actually, when you get a long way ahead, it's hard to control the boat behind.
Take the chat, guys.
Their faces, a picture of calm, but concentration. That's been the key for the last 2 days.
Mate, turning. By Will.
they've been so solid. You know, just watching them yesterday in that hectic course we had with the gusty, patchy wind, they made the least mistakes of everybody, and they got 3 bullets out of it. You know, it was a good comeback from the Australians today, but I mean, in terms of the quality that we've seen from the British this weekend, I think it's a fair account of the event that they leave the victors.
And through that tack, you saw that minimum speed of 19 knots. Now, on these big foils that they're using today, as long as you stay kind of 16, 17 knots, you can expect to be able to remain on the foils, do what we call a foiling tack, where we turn the boat through the wind. And I just think it just looks super smooth. Here we go. Let's watch them go again.
Mate, turning. My wheel.
The final tack and the run into the finish. Well, perhaps, as Saskia Clark was indicating, on the balance of what we've seen across the 2 days, the better nation, the better boat has won. 4 fleet race victories to Ben Ainslie, only a solitary one for Tom Slingsby, but one that showed great character to take the 5th fleet race and deny Japan the opportunity to take on Great Britain in this, the first match race of the 2020 SailGP Championship.
Okay, coming away. Yeah. Board's coming down. Your wing. My wing. Mate.
Ben Ainslie guiding them home here. Coming up towards the line. And it's Great Britain and Ben Ainslie who take the first victory of 2020. And we really are in a fantastic season of head-to-head confrontation. Slingsby coming off second best this time, but they are the defending champions. He and the Australians will be back, but it's first blood to Big Ben Ainslie and Great Britain. The 2020 SailGP Championship is up and running in fine style. It's going to be an amazing year.
Hey. Just champagne, thanks. Yeah, Shrek, where are you? Come on. So Ben, if we could, Ben. Well, mate.
I think you know, it's great to hear there Ben calling Shrek. That's Matt Cottrell getting on the front of the boat there. The grinders in the front there, Neil Hunter, Richard Mason and Martin Gottrell, who've been rotating through this event. I really feel they've been a huge part of this success. That to be able to sail the boat as aggressively as they have, when you see how aggressively Ian Jensen's been setting up the wing, it's just down to the power that's going in from those guys. So incredible athletes, and great to see them getting the credit.
And Sass, I think we need to pay credit as well to Ian Jensen and Luke Parkinson. There is no doubt they have helped bed Ben Ainslie into this F50.
For sure, you know, they were one of the quality teams from season 1, and as a 3, they're doing a lot of sailing together in their other sailing projects that they've got. And you know, Ben stepped in and instantly is the fastest downwind for sure. The Australians have still had some hitting good numbers upwind, but you know, when you're fast downwind, it's a lovely thing to be fast downwind. It gets you out of all sorts of trouble. It's been impressive to see.
Well, Ben, you've done it again here in Sydney. It's been a superb weekend. 4 fleet race victories. You've done the match race. And this rivalry between you and Tom Slingsby is going to run and run all season. But the early spice belongs to you, big man.
Yeah, thanks, guys. I mean, I've got to give all credit to the team. This is, if ever there's a team sport, it's SailGP. And I don't think I've ever stepped onto a boat like this where I've just been able to put it where I want to put it on the race course, and the guys will take care of the rest. So it's really down to the phenomenal guys I'm sailing with. And it's been a real pleasure, you know, to sail with them. And what an amazing fortnight here in Sydney, and obviously the last 2 days with SailGP, incredible conditions on the harbour. It doesn't really get any better than that. So, yeah, we've had an amazing time. Thank you, Sydney.
And it really seems as though you've had fun out there. These F50s are incredible pieces of technology, aren't they?
Yeah, they really are. I mean, it's the best sailing I've ever done. Hand on heart, it's just been an incredible experience being out here, learning to sail this boat, racing against these other teams who are all got a huge amount of talent on board. Tommy, you mentioned Tommy and the Aussies, the hometown favourites. It was great to be up against them in the match race and to come out on top. Yeah, It's just a dream start for us, and look forward to the rest of the season ahead.
Well, go and enjoy your champers, you animal, and we'll see you in San Francisco.
Roger that.
What a great competitor.
Well, there you have it, Ben Ainsley, his first event in SailGP, and he wins every single race bar the final fleet race, which it may turn out he actually let everyone else get away from because he knew he was guaranteed a place in the match racing final. Lisa, it was unfamiliar territory for him. On his F50, on the British SailGP team boat, he was the least experienced man, and we heard him say there he was giving the victory to the team.
Yeah, I think the credit to the team is well-deserved because having Ian Jensen on the wing, one of the best wing trimmers on these sort of boats, and then Luke Parkinson as the flight control, Ben has full faith in them, and then those grinders at the front give so much power so that Ian at the back can do exactly what he wants to the wing. So I think that they made it easy for Ben to come in here and just do what he does best, and that's make good racing tactical decisions.
One of the things that I saw you talking about repeatedly throughout the weekend was how stable they were flying the boat in comparison to everyone else.
Yeah, we definitely said we'd expect a lot different this season, a lot more competitive, and I think we said if you're not foiling, you're failing, and I think that now it's like if you're not foiling at 80 centimetres, you're failing. So, yeah, certainly I think all the teams are going to use the next month or two to review that data and see why they were so stable.
Okay, let's take a look now at the confirmation of the graphics. You can see the British team there sharing out the champagne across the trapeze. So, beautiful scenes for them here on Sydney Harbour. The British SailGP team boat, presented by Ineos, does lead the day. So, championship leaderboard. Ben Ainsley and Great Britain on 10 points. Tom Slingsby just behind on 9 points, but a lot to take home for Tom Slingsby and the Australian team. Nathan Outridge still getting Japan on the podium in third place there. It's a case of what could have been for Phil Robertson in fourth place had he not suffered the penalties after slamming into France on the first race of the day. Big disappointment for the French as well. Billy Besson, we've christened him the bad luck sponge here in Sydney, and it's certainly been true. We heard Stevie Morrison pointing out that jib sheet breaking for him. It just went from bad to worse, didn't it?
Yeah, I think it was the icing on top of a bad weekend for Billy, but, you know, it was a tough one for them, and I think when those sort of things happen, I don't know who you look at, but I think the Shawker are going to be having a thorough checklist at the next event.
Yeah, and I think there are unbelievably, in between all of that, there are positives for him to take because he started that first race so strongly. He was in the lead at the first mark, and then it was situations beyond his control that dragged him down.
Yeah, it's really disappointing when those things happen and they're forced errors. But I think what I've seen is throughout the whole 7 boats, everyone's lifted. This fleet is so much more competitive than last year. And if you do make a mistake or you have a boat breakdown, you do get punished.
Well, that was never more evident than in the final match race where last year's champion was schooled, it's got to be said. We can take a look now at the start because that was the critical moment. We saw this in Marseille, Lisa. Same mistake.
Yeah, the Australians entered the box early and got a penalty, which is exactly how they entered the match race last year. So I think they were trying to burn the penalty off, and it sounds like there were some technical glitches on board because the umpires did step in and say the penalty was clear. So, I mean, the Australians will be very disappointed with that, but these boats are fueled by technology. We rely on it for this style of racing. So they'll be disappointed, but they can't be too angry because, unfortunately, it's part of our game.
Yeah, and I mean, that would have mentally shaken Tom Slingsby at the most critical point of the race.
Yeah, I mean, he gets frustrated pretty quickly, which is understandable, but I think for Tom, what I was saying earlier is he just cannot let Ben cross that start line before him, and that's what happened, and we just saw a procession.
Yeah, we saw him absolutely blaze out in front there. It's one of the most fascinating elements in this building rivalry is how similar the two personality types are.
Yeah, I think they both take things really personally. penalty if they make a mistake, and Ben Ainslie got the better of Tom this event, but I wouldn't write the Australians off by any means, and I'm really impressed with the British. They sailed a fantastic weekend, and I think the Australians will be disappointed but not disheartened. They know that this is a long championship, and there's still a lot that they can do to move forward.
Okay, well, talking of that championship, we can take a look now at the schedule for the rest of the season. From Australia, we move to the first weekend in May in the legendary San Francisco Bay. Perfect winds there. Then we've got that iconic venue of New York. Then we go to Cowes, and then it's on to Scandinavia in Copenhagen. So keep yourselves nice, and we will see you in San Francisco. We can't wait.